Hi, BEcon. This is video 3 for chapter 4, addressing pages 94 to 98, which was about price floors. We are going to spend some time drawing out the labor market as it relates to these price floors and discussing why minimum wage may be inefficient economically. So, one disclaimer is that I'm at school, so the class bell tone may ring, but I will keep going anyways. The labor market is much like any of the other markets we've studied so far, in that it is a market that plots two variables. It plots price and quantity. You know these things differently because the price of labor is something we call wages. So this is, for our purposes here, an hourly wage. And quantity doesn't refer to the number of people working or the number of tasks, but it refers to like labor hours, let's say. So the number of hours that exists for working. The labor market is a little bit backwards intuitive compared to normal. As a teenager, you may be looking at supply and demand and thinking, well, this is easy. Demand is super easy to understand. Demand is that I demand a higher quantity of goods at lower prices. But the reverse is true in the labor market. You guys, as teenagers, represent the supply curve. And by that I mean you guys are willing to work more hours for higher pay. It's true. If you're a lifeguard and you're supposed to work from 12 to 5, if they ask you to work from 5 to 10, let's say, they better be paying you more. Otherwise, you may choose not to. So, supply represents the number of people who want to work. Maybe I'll even people who want to work. So on the opposite side of things, we have the demand curve, and the demand curve represents really like businesses and firms and their desire, their demand for labor hours. If you owned a business, you would want to lower your wages, right? Because it's an input cost, and that would allow you to hire more quantity of labor hours. So this is firms desiring laborers. Now, how a price floor works is a lot like a price ceiling. It is a government mandated minimum amount that you can charge somebody, minimum price. This is used in agricultural subsidies so that corn doesn't cost so little that farmers are unwilling to farm corn, and then we don't have corn and popcorn and all, or sort of delicious corn syrupy type of things. The price floor for labor is deemed to just be socially beneficial because it provides people a living wage. If we have a price floor and it's below equilibrium price. Remember, equilibrium price is the intersection of these axes. Here's quantity equilibrium, and then here's price equilibrium. If we set a price floor below market, like let's say for our intents and purposes, the equilibrium wage rate is actually about $5 an hour. I know that's less than minimum wage, but stay with me here. Let's say the government says the minimum wage should be $3 an hour. You set it down here. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense because what we see is that firms demand labor at about 5 here. So they demand it even higher than people are willing to work at $3 an hour. So what we really that price floor is like inefficient. It doesn't make any sense. Much like the price ceilings, whenever we address price floors, they're only relevant when they're above equilibrium price. So I'm not sure the exact figure as of January 9th, 2014 when I'm making this video, but minimum wage now is set above, let's say, what we're assuming is equilibrium uh, wage rate of $5 an hour, and let's just say it's set at 8.50. And how this matters to you as a worker, as a teenager who wants a job, is that at $8.50 an hour, firms demand that many hours of work, and people are willing to work for that much. So what we have here, this gap, is a surplus. Now, normally what we do in a surplus, like let's say surplus of sofas made by a sofa company, is a sofa company would then sell those like at a store like Big Lots or at an outlet or something like that. But we can't do that for labor because this is people. We can't like outlet laborers to other places. So what we have is that surplus. This is called unemployment. Remember, equilibrium price down here at $5. That means everybody who is desiring work is working. Like the supply and the demand meet there. There's nobody left over, so that would be zero unemployment. But what we have right now, because of the minimum wage, is the surplus, and that surplus is people who want to work but are unable to find work. That's what we define as unemployment when we get to Chapter 8. So really, this price floor for the labor market is a little bit confusing. It doesn't economically work for supply and demand. Socially, it seems viable to provide people with $8.50 an hour. Means that they can provide for their families foreseeably, whereas at $5 they would not be able to. Much like in price ceilings, this leads to black markets. That's why you have people that work for less money. If you were an economically thinking individual, you would go to the movie theater where they hire people for minimum wage and ask them if you can work for 50 cents less per hour. They might not give it to you, but that would make sense for them to do so. That would create a black market for labor. So that is some of the explanation for the labor market. For further questions, ask me in class, and I hope you have enjoyed supply and demand thus far.